ฮัลโหลสวัสดีครับเป็นไงบ้างสอบเสร็จหรือยังวันอาทิตย์ที่ผ่านมาเป็นวันเลือกตั้งเนาะโอเคได้ยินเสียงดังฟังชัดไหมครับโอเคเอ่อทีนี้เดี๋ยวมาดูกันห้าอันนี้ไปไกลแล้วไม่ใช่ I don't think so พี่จะยึดตัวนี้นะครับก็จริงๆแล้วเป็น part speaking แต่ว่าเราก็มาฝึกได้นะฮะเราดูที่สองตัวนี้ก่อนแล้วกันนะครับก็อาจจะยากนิดนึงแต่ว่าเดี๋ยวให้เวลาพูดหน่อยก็จะเป็นแนวแบบ free speaking นะครับก็อยากพูดอะไรก็ตามไอเดียที่เราจะพูดเป็นการฝึก develop เอ่อเขาเรียกว่าความคล่องหรือว่า fluency นั่นเองนะฮะนะเริ่มเลยแล้วกันนะครับ Okay. So for the first question, right, we can focus on the first question first, just because I think that it is very important for all of us to say something on this issue or problems, right? Okay, so many people believe that the television violence, right? So the keyword here is that television violence has a negative effect to the society because it promotes violence. Uh-huh. So do you agree or disagree with it, your specific reason and example to support your responses? So basically, for this title or even core questions here, it can be seen on the, IELTS essays or even essay for a prompt or any discussion here, right? So the keyword here, you have to focus on television violence in what way, right? And how can it promote to, to have or to cause lots of violence to the amount of children or even teenagers in the society. So what can be done to solve this kind of problem? Any suggestion or even recommendation to, to elevate or even help, the way that causing the problems become to be an advantage one. All right. I'm going to let you prepare a bit just because it's kind of a little bit detailed here, right? Maybe 2 or 3 minutes. If you're ready, you can turn on the microphone and just open discussion here. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Um, from my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I I believe that television violence don't 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 have that much negative effect on society because um, when we concern about promoting violence um this is because every television violence that has been shown in the television need need to have um, need to have a, something like a restriction to um, before they start the show, and therefore this can make children or any other people who are underage don't watch the violence. Yeah, however, some may argue that the children who are underage may watch the violence in television and ignore the age restriction that has been shown. I think that in that case, we should just hold we should just make the someone like parents who take care of their children and make sure that they don't watch the violence in the television.
Mhm. All right. Well, I do understand that just because the television violence here, right, may cause some negative effect. Okay, so analysis might be changed a bit just because, sorry, just because so for right now we are living in the current trend, right? So maybe television may not be a popular channel to children or society here. We call maybe internet or even this kind of application, for example, like TikTok or other kind of application that can be seen to promote such a aggressive behavior here. Right? So what do you think about parents' responsibility? Just because for this type of question, we can see like how to promote violence that can happen to teenagers or even those children, right, in society. Um, what kind of limitations or even restrictions that parents should be responsible for those kind of students in order to make sure that they can limit the way that they can watching or sitting on the TV program, and in order to reduce this kind of behavior, especially for aggressive behavior.
Well, I think the solution to this problem is that we should divide the television violence into another into one channel that have all age restriction. For example, like maybe we include the television violence in one channel in some channels and tell them that this channel need to be more than 15 years old in order to open it. Yeah, in this case, it will be easier for parents to watch over their child to not watch the violence in television.
All right. So you mentioned that those parents have to pay attention or even try to notice that this kind of program might be prohibited or even is limited to those children who age under 15 or younger than that, right? Or what kind of program that may be accessible or even suitable for those children who can see and watch, and we can limit this kind of content in order to make sure that it might not cause any kind of aggressive behavior later, right? Okay, so do you think it's not just responsibility for their parents, just because I do believe that it might be related to the partial regulation or even the partial responsibility from other people too. For example, like government or even other sectors that can be related to. For example, like once we talk about promote violence that coming from television program, right? And also that it is prohibited. It means that it must be governed by the government who can responsible for this kind of program or even the TV program or channels that can be restricted, right? So if it happens in reality, right? And then do you think government play an important role to limit this kind of television violence and can reduce this kind of problem may happen later?
I think that government can play a role in regulate the television violence, maybe by banning the violence that the violence in television too extreme, like something like that. So so people will not be able to watch it.
All right, good. All right. Another aspect for this kind of core question is that it may cause some negative psychological behavior. Just because I do believe that watching too much on television program or even sitting in front of the TV program might cause any kind of like you cannot even personalize yourself or interactive with others too, right? So it means that it might cause personal psychological problem, for example, like depression or even things like socially isolated, things like that, right? So here we can talk about maybe some cause of psychological issue or problem that may happen from watching television here, and it can cause or promote negative violence too. That's it. Good. Thank you so much for your sharing here. ยากไหมฮะ
ก็รู้สึกยากเหมือนกันครับ
ยากอยู่นะจริงๆมันเป็นโจทย์เอเซแต่ว่าพี่คิดว่าก็พยายามแบบพี่พยายามแตกให้เราช่วย discuss นิดหนึ่งนะครับไม่เป็นไรก็เป็นการpractice speaking, right? Okay, good. So yeah, just because we can cover for full topics here for today's class, I think we should move to the second question here, right? So basically for the second question, it talks about things that is happen to reality, right? So what we need to reconsider is that we can see from this kind of question again, right? According to some people, right? Some people, elderly drivers should be required to reapply, right? Reapply for their driving license because of their age. Here comes diminished vision or poor vision here, hearing loss or even inability to hear something properly or even reaction time, right? The keyword here is that vision loss, hearing loss, or even reaction time loss, basically, right? How do you feel about this issue? Explain what do you think should be done and why, right? So for this question is generally happen to a daily life, and I would say that it is happen for everyone too, especially for driver or even those people who have to use or even drive in the road, right, daily. So what it means here is that important to reapply again and again, or it's just only one single shot to apply for a driving license? And here we can see a contributing factor here. The first one is that vision, hearing, and reaction time. So you have to say for the three aspects, three factors that can cause a problem when we don't reapply for this kind of driving license, right? The question asks you that, how do you feel with that? and what the reason why they can support any idea of this section here. I'm going to give you for 5 minutes first, right? Just because it's a little bit detail here. And if you're ready, you can turn on the microphone. Yep.
Okay. From my opinion, I feel about this issue as something that should be done. This is because it is true that elder people have to have to have to um, have to have their capability to drive decrease than before. Yeah, something like maybe their vision may get blur or they react to the or they react to the traffic um, too slow, which can cause some accident
Yep.
to other people who use the road. Yeah, and this is reason why we should check that whether elderly drivers can still drive or not. Yeah, and I think that is both benefit to the elders and other people, as the elders can be sure that they are capable of driving at this time. Yeah, and the others are safe too because they don't need to take a risk of having an accident by the elderly drivers. Yeah, so I think that what should be done is to still require to reapply for their driving license. Yeah.
I see. All right. Thank you so much for your sharing, sir. So personally, I do believe that people who can get a driving license should be required to reapply again and again, or at least 5 years, 10 years, whatever, right? Can be determined how age it is they come from to get a holder or driving license here. The reason is that I think that it's just because this is the legal requirement, right? Legal requirement and such an important evidence that a driver can hold such a driving license in order to make sure that they can be safe while driving a car on along the road. So this question may cause some let's say controversial issues just because some people may not have the legal driving license just because they cannot even reapply or even just ignore this kind of reapply again and again just because they get older or then they can claim that it might busy. It might be like they don't have time, enough time to do so. But the reason for their physical or even like impairment here, right? Diminished vision, hearing, or reaction time might be three conclusive aspects that we have to talk about. It may cause some impairment to a person, and it may drive into lots of vulnerability or even an accident or dangerous situation on the road. So I would say that to me, I think it should be required to reapply for a driving license just because the certain age may have the certain diminished way of doing so. For example, a vision, hearing, or even reaction time. And it is not only just only people who can recognize or even realize that it should be reapplied, but I would say that it might be an option, right? Maybe an important legal issue that the government should let's say like prioritize this kind of problem in order to make sure that they could implement something into the way that we have to follow the rules and regulations here. So my second question is that what do you think about those people who hold illegal driving license? And what can cause the problem in the future?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with your opinion about um about why we should why we should require to reapply for driving license and
Mm-hmm.
about the problem about illegal driving license.
Yep.
I think that the police need to be more strict. Some or maybe like to to make to to make a station and check for each car about for their driving license. Yeah, and they need to be able to acknowledge the difference between the true driving license and the
Mm-hmm.
fake one.
Yep.
So so people will people will not have to worry about others have fake driving license, which may be sometime cause some accident to to other people in the road because
Mm-hmm.
people who have illegal driving license will not have to reapply for their driving license. So it they may not be able to drive safely. Yeah, which is somehow dangerous.
All right, good. So it means that both of us, try to prevent from illegal driving license to those people who hold it, right? Just because it may cause a lot of things that, for example, unexpected situation or dangerous situation on the road later, right? For more, I would say that just because in order to get a driving license, we're gonna get two tests. For example, the first one is that driving test, and the second is written test based on the driving knowledge. For example, like a traffic jam or how to do on the road while you're driving, right? I would say that I particularly mentioned that practical training or even driving training session is a key important for those people driving on a car, right? Not just only like they're gonna get knowledge from a traffic regulations here. Just because the problems that happen on the road is that the driver cannot even carefully practice doing the drive on the road. So to what extent, I'm going to ask you that which one is more important between driving training or written test for knowledge based on the information of driving or even rules and regulation on the road here. Which one is more important than to get a driving license holder here?
Ideally, I think that more of them are important.
Yeah.
Because knowing the law will make you not do something illegal or maybe cause some trouble to other people. And knowing the way and knowing the ways to drive safely is important too, because you will make sure that you will not cause some accident to the other people.
I
But
see.
if I need to choose one of them
Yeah.
to be the most important, I think I will choose the ways. I think I will choose that driving at correct ways, or maybe be able to drive safely is more important. This is
Training, right?
because
Driving training.
yeah. Yes. This is because that although you know the rules, but you don't know how you don't know you don't have much experience about driving. You are still able to you are still able to cause some accident. Because in reality it every car is different from each other.
Yeah.
Some car maybe you use a fast speed, but the others may be slow. So we should know how to deal with them.
I
And
see.
I think that although we don't know about the 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 rules about driving, and we may we may
Drive
do
safely.
we may do something illegal, like parking at somewhere there that is prohibited. But I think that sure is maybe cause some problem to the others, but nobody will get some pain or die from this incident. So I think that it I think that it isn't that much dangerous when compared to the first one.
I see. Thank you so much for sharing. So you do agree that both way of driving training or even getting a written test for a driving license here have equally important, right? But anyway, we can consider the scenario or the action happen on the road, which may cause higher accident or toward people harmful things like that, or even dangerous thing can happen. Based on the driving training may inadequate instead of like a knowledge of traffic or even rule and regulation on the road here. So here on the law, when we wait between the two, right, waiting between the two here, I would say that maybe driving training is more important to the getting lots of knowledge on the road here, just because we can we can prevent it, right, from an accident and that happen or related to other people, right, and some kind of like expenses must be beyond that without knowing how to the information on the road here, right? Yep วันนี้ ได้นะจริงๆแล้วมีเรื่อง insurance อีกแต่ว่าไม่เป็นไรข้ามไปก่อนครับ move ไปข้อ3ดีกว่า all right, so I think shall we move to next topic here, because we can discuss and you can see how well you develop your spoken communication here, right? Okay, so for this talk, the first one you can see it is related to the way that I think you are a knowledgeable person for this kind of question, right? Medical researchers, cosmetic companies, and other often perform experiments on animal right? Experiment on animals here. So many people feel that experimentation on the animals is wrong and should be stopped immediately because animals do pain and there are other alternatives. How do you feel with that? State your position and explain the reason why. Again, right, you have to generalize the way that we have to use animal as an example for the experimentation, for example, like drug experimentation. We use mice, we use rabbit, right? We use, I don't know, I'm not sure what is the specific animal that sampled for the experimentation here. But the key reason here is that feel pain may cause the same as a human feel or not, or even this is the standard of doing so, or any kind of experimentation should be stopped or even should be regulated more and more, things like that, right? So I would suggest that you can raise some example in the laboratory or even medical research, for example, like doing for the vaccine or injection some chemical substances right into the animal instead of patient. So what should be done if we stop doing so? Things like that. Okay? Yeah. I'm going to give you for 5 minutes and then you can explain for more. Right?
To be honest, I feel that experimentation on animals is is long and yeah, because animal feel pain like human and other mammals. However, I think that it shouldn't be stopped because it is necessary for human advance.
Mhm.
for human advancement.
Yep.
Yeah, this is because experimenting on animal will make the medical technology um improve at 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 high rate. Yeah. And yeah, and yeah คือalthough animals feel pain and we may cause a pain to animals, but before we conduct an experiment on animals, we test it and in logical way. Maybe like we learn about the drug mechanism first before we use it on animals. So we are sure we are sure at some point that the drugs will not cause a pain to animals. Yeah, it is true that sometimes it may have mistake and the animals may die. But I think it is better than using it using it directly to human and let human die. Yeah.
I see.
The example of this case is about COVID-19 vaccine. As you can see, before we test the vaccine to human, we try it to the animal first, and many animal die from the vaccine that is and still under developed. Yeah. So if we use the underdeveloped vaccine to human to human and not experimenting on animal, it may cause a lot of people die from vaccine, and yeah, it will not be great for sure. So we should choose between letting animal die or letting human die. Yeah, which is I think that everyone completely agree that we should let animal die instead. Yeah.
I see. Thank you so much for your sharing here. So this is very important to reconsider, right? Just because testing on animals might be proper than like testing any kind of experimentation on a human, just because we can decide whether it is living alive or even stopped living alive as a date consequences later, right? For the experimentation, is there any right or law that can prevent or preserve the saving life for any animal or any kind of like legal conducted research to make sure that we have concerned about the right of animal here?
Yeah, indeed, they have some regulation to animal experimentation. The researcher should be able to explain the mechanism of the drug that they will use on animals, and they should be able to hypothesize that the animal will not have pain or maybe will not have pain or die from the drugs. Yeah, they should have some evidence to show about the mechanism. Yeah. However, since it is just hypothesis, it may be wrong. Yeah. So in this case, it is something that we can't do anything about it. Yeah. But the law can prevent the chance of researcher do anything on animals. Yeah. So I think that it can prevent at some it can prevent for at some point. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your sharing here. So, although it has, just debatable issues on medical research, right? Just because it takes from time to time, and they just like try to reconsiderate, right? Considerate on something that a human life or even animal life might be the same or equally important to do so. Yep, that is the reason. But anyway, when it comes to doing such experimentation or even experimental studies, for example, like a cosmetic or even drug research, right? We have to test on the thing that is less important than what we are going to treat for long-lasting aspect of people living a long life later, right? Good. Thank you so much for your sharing here. Shall we move to the last topic for today class? Is that it's all about economic, right? Or even how to organize money here, right? So the key important aspect for this question is that in order to save money, right? Wait a second. Okay, so you can see from the following questions here, in order to save money, right? Your principle is thinking about the canceling of field trips for the remainder of the year. Write an essay or talk about persuading him or her to allow students to continue attending field trips. All right, and then use specific reason and example to support your response here. All right, so it talks about the policy or even campaign that can be done to reduce the way that we can spend money or spending money on something is not particularly important to do so. To an extent that, do you agree that attending field trip, for example, you are going to attend such important seminar in overseas, for example, in the UK, US, or overseas, go abroad, things like that. It may cost lots of money, expenses on that way, right? So for this question, you have to generalize or even explain for more why field trips or even this kind of thing is important for spending money. Or if you do not agree or even you disagree that field trip is not important, so how to save money to prevent this kind of thing. Any kind of thing to do instead of taking a field trip to save money, or what the way that you can raise such a an activity that you can save money instead of it, right? Okay, give you 5 minutes and then you can turn on your microphone here.
Okay. Well, I think that in this case, we should consider before we try to persuade our principal to to not cancel the field trip. We should really consider first that whether the field trip is necessary or not. If we just want to go outside school and maybe have some fun, I think in that case we should let him cancel the field trip. But in the case that the field trip is necessary to improve improve our experience on the field on the field of their work. In this case, we should persuade him to um to not cancel the field trip. Yeah, and we can persuade him by maybe giving him a reason why the field trip is important, and maybe suggest some way to reduce the cost of field trip. Maybe like to let student pay for their food for their food during the field trip, or maybe selecting the place that may be cheaper but the quality isn't that much worse. Yeah, in this way we can reduce the amount of money used during the field trip. Yeah, and yeah, we the principal may reconsider about it and continue their field trip.
All right, thank you so much for your sharing here. So personally, I do agree that cutting some budget for the thing unnecessary may be benefit or even take any advantage for their company or even a single organization here, right? So for this part of question, we can see that the principle or even how to make a decision making on thinking that cancel what it is important to maintain, right? Such a benefit to people or even to remainder, things like that, right? To remainder people here may cause, a better place to do so. So the key question for this question, I think that just because attending field trip or even taking any trip to overseas can open the door or even exposed to lots of experiences or even personal encounters that can happen from time to time. So it may be bring the benefit instead of other thing that we can consider too. In order to save money, it can be done in various way, but for this one, it is very important to say that continue attending a field trip may still consistent, right? Or even remain what benefit that we can take into this, and it may bring the successful way to promote or even to make some people or remainder feel okay or feel happy at the same time. So I would say that waiting or considering from canceling or even remaining this kind of thing might depend on the circumstances of the principal making decision too, just because if it costs lots of money without anything getting in return. So what we do make a decision here is that cutting that and throw it away. But whatever or however things happen in return, right? Just because we invest something, we expect the return of investment here. So that is not related to just only for expenditure or money get in return, but when we consider from the growth or even the way that we can improve or other thing that can happen to what people or remainder become better person in that day. So I think that the way that you have to decide might be remain instead of stop doing so, right? This kind of thing good. เป็นไงบ้างวันนี้เดี๋ยว random แน่ จะให้ random แล้วว่าเนี่ยเราชอบข้อไหนมากที่สุดครับวันนี้วันที่เท่าไหร่ครับ16
ก็ชอบข้อสามมากสุดครับ
ใช่ไอก็รู้สึกได้ว่า you flow ที่สุดเสียข้อสามแต่เป็นหนึ่งนะหนึ่งวันนี้16จะพูดข้อสามอีกไหม แป๊บหนึ่งนะเอ่อพี่ขอให้เราสรุปดีกว่าพี่ยังไม่อยากจัดเท่าไหร่พี่จัดทีเดียวเลยได้ไหมประมาณ2-3ครั้งแล้วก็ประเมินทีเดียวเลยนะเพราะว่ามันเพิ่งเปิดฟลอร์เดียแบบไม่ค่อยอยากจะไอ้นั้นเท่าไหร่ให้ผมสรุปทั้ง4 ข้อสั้นๆเลยฮะเอาแบบ main point ก่อนไปได้ไหม
อ๋อได้ครับ
ละ alright okay I'm going to give you maybe 2 minutes for preparation I just want a key highlight in each question and then you can summarize and then flow the sequences here right as overall picture of the 4 questions here yeah
For the first question
yeah
I personally agree that television violence has negative effect on society. However, it is easy to prevent these negative effects by by separate a channel that contain a violence. So people who are underage know that the channel have some violence and they shouldn't watch it. For the second question, from my opinions, I think that it is right it is necessary to let the elderly drivers required to reapply for their driving license in order to prevent for some accident that may be caused by their diminished capability to drive. For example, like their vision or reaction time. Yeah.
right
And for the third question, I think that although it is true true that experimentation on animals may cause pain to animal and indeed it is wrong. Um, However, we also should to consider that um, using it on animal is better than using it to human. Yeah, and although it may cause pain, we already check at some point that the drug that we will use on animal um shouldn't be able to cause pain or death to animal. Although sometimes the hypothesis may be wrong, however, that is rarely happen. Yeah. So to sum up, I feel empathy about this animal, but we can do nothing about it. Yeah. And and yeah. It isn't like we can do nothing about it, but we already do as much as we can. Yeah. Some, for example, like regulating the experimentation. Yeah.
all right
But about the last question, I think that before we persuade the principal, we should reconsider ourselves first whether the field trip is necessary or not. If it is necessary, then we should persuade him by maybe telling him or her to cut off some budget in order to be able to save more money, or maybe like to choose some cheaper place with the same quality as the other. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for your sharing here ดีขึ้น fluency ชัดขึ้นแล้วนะฮะแต่อาจจะมีติดนิดหน่อยอะไรเงี้ยอาจจะต้องเปลี่ยนในเรื่องของso for fluency I would say that for today class you have done a very great job and flow right but I would suggest that you can reduce the way that you talk about right but just because I heard and you repeat it all the time. So for me, I would suggest that you can start by, for example, like if you can respond to the first question, right? Firstly, and then next or even after that. So okay, next after that for a second responses here, I think I would say, and the last one is that next again, next is might be a key. An easy way to say something that you want to continue, right? Speaking later, right? And lastly, or even lastly, finally, right? Lastly and finally would be like the key concept that we can continue from the first to the end. That's all, right? Okay. นะภาพรวมก็ไม่น่ามีปัญหากระม่าเรื่องนี้เดี๋ยวผ่านไปสักพักเดี๋ยวกราฟม่าเรามันจะแอดวานซ์ขึ้นเดี๋ยววันนี้เนี่ยพี่พยายามพูดให้มันดูแอดวานซ์ขึ้นนะครับเรื่อยๆเดี๋ยวเราก็จะเปิดเดี๋ยวผ่าน discussion ไปเนี่ยมันก็จะเป็นพาร์ทที่แบบว่าทำ public speaking โน่นนี่นั่นไปนะฮะเพราะฉะนั้นเดี๋ยวก็ฝึกให้มัน flow ก่อนแล้วก็เดี๋ยวสักพักเนี่ยก็จะเก่งขึ้นพูด fluent ขึ้นนั่นเองนะพี่ว่าโอเคนะเป็นไงบ้างเราประเมินตัวเองครับ fluent ไหม
ก็รู้สึกว่ารอบสุดท้ายที่พูดก็โฟล์ขึ้นครับ
แล้วไปสอบเป็นไงบ้างอ่ะเพราะพี่ก็แบบไม่แน่ใจ
ก็คิดว่าพูดกันได้ดีครับแล้วก็
หมายถึงว่าก็คือผ่านไปแบบโฟล์เลยใช่ไหมไม่ได้ติดอะไรตอนสอบที่ในคณะนะฮะเพราะว่าแต่ว่าโชคดีตรงที่ว่าเขาให้ทราบท็อปิกใช่ไหมเราก็เลยเทรนไปเต็มที่โอเคก็คือผ่านได้ดีเนาะpronunciation เป็นไงบ้างลอง reflect ตัวเองก่อนแล้วเพราะพี่จะได้เพิ่มเสริมเติมเต็มแล้ว
ก็คิดว่าอาจจะพูดตรงที่มี ed ไม่ค่อยชัดเท่าไหร่ครับ
แต่พี่รู้สึกว่าเรา imitate เสียงได้แล้วหมายถึงว่าอย่างเช่น it is เนี่ยเราก็จะแบบพยายามฝึกได้แล้วเนาะ that is it is เนี่ยพี่ฟังเมื่อกี้ก็คือพยายามอันนี้เป็น natural speaking เราต้องฝึกให้ได้หมายถึงว่าพอเราพูดในเรื่องของสำเนียงเนี่ยเราต้องจำ way flow ของคนปกติหมายถึงว่า native speaker เขาพูดกันมันก็จะประมาณนี้นะฮะก็ถือว่าผ่านแล้วแต่ว่าพี่คงไม่ได้serious หรือว่าแบบ take it seriously ขนาดนั้นก็คือเดี๋ยวไล่ develop improve ไปเรื่อยๆเนี่ยผมจะเห็น progress เองนะครับสุดท้ายก็จะเป็นในเรื่องของไอเดียไม่น่ามีปัญหานะเพราะมันแล้วแต่ topic เนาะมันก็ depend นะอย่างเช่นข้อที่เราได้มันก็จะ flow มากกว่าข้อที่เหลืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยเพียงนั้นป่ะนะ alright นะครับตามนั้นเดี๋ยวเจอกันอีกทีวันไหนผมว่างตลอดแล้วใช่ไหมตอนนี้
ใช่ครับ
เดี๋ยวนะเพราะว่าพี่ไม่เดี๋ยวแป๊บนึงนะฮะขอเช็คพี่ไม่อยู่26 ถึง 30มันจะเป็นวีคสุดท้ายเราต้องหาวันมาเสียบอีกวันหนึ่งงั้นเราเรียนเป็นอังคารพฤหัส2 วีคไหวป่ะ
ไหวครับ
หมายถึงว่าภายในเดือนนี้นะเพราะพี่ไม่อยู่ที่26นะฮะพี่ไปคอนเฟอเรนซ์ไปเขาเรียกว่าไปประชุมแต่ว่าไปญี่ปุ่น5 วันใช่มันก็เลยไม่ทันนะฮะโอเคตามนั้นครับเจอกันครับ alright thank you so much for today class bye bye
พี่โดโรสวัสดีครับ
ครับผม